Oh, yeah. See, we plan ahead. That way we don't do anything right now. Earl explained it to me.
And Kevin, you and I have both watched Salem's Lot, but before we talk about that, that was discussed that it was originally supposed to be a 3-hour long movie. Thank you, Bloody Disgusting.
Ah.
Like the other versions. The long way to
you
for for cutting it down, or
for at least acknowledging that they cut so much out of this fucking picture. Like, it was bothering me so bad how much that we're cutting out of this story. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, unless you knew the book, you knew the other two movies,
right?
They cut out so much that they left in just enough to make a good movie or a decent movie. It's not bad. It's not bad at all.
Right.
But there's just so much great shit that gets cut out of it.
Oh, yeah. And basically, when they're talking to, what's going on here, the long-awaited movie adaptation from director Gavin Dauberman is now available to stream on Max. It's been out for a minute now. Unleashing a stylish vampire outbreak without much in the way of story, that's pretty spot on. Turns out that there was a much larger or longer cut of the film that Dauberman ultimately trimmed down for a leaner runtime. The filmmaker revealed in a recent interview with Den of Geek, my first cut was about 3 hours. There's a lot left out. My first draft of the script is 180 odd pages or something because you're trying to include everything. And a lot of it has to do with secondary characters and stuff that I spoke about. So it was sad to see that stuff go, but it's like a necessary evil. While I get that, unfortunately, I feel like if you're going to trim it down, you got to trim it down smartly. It felt like there's things that are just not explained at all and not properly built up. So I feel like some stuff that was cut out really hurt this movie because the pacing of this is terrible. And that's putting it bluntly. Like, and the editing, like, I know you had a professional editor on this. I know you did. But the editing sucked too. So your editor and you sat down and this is your idea of a smooth film. It's jarring. You jump from one fucking scene to another and you are missing literally important context from not just previous versions of this, but like the book in and of itself. You are missing actually important context to one scene to the next. And we're not doing like an hour-long breakdown, or we could get into specifics about that. But there's a lot that is missing out of this, and it does hurt the film. And the pacing is just terrible. It's just terrible. It's 2 hours, and it feels every bit as long as a 3-hour movie does. Does it mean I didn't like the movie? No, I actually enjoyed it. Why do you say you still enjoy it after you just said the pacing's horrible and the editing sucks? Well, I'm not beholden to the story, but as a film fan, editing sucked. But when the movie was over with, I'm like, that's not bad. Looked pretty. If you want a real nitpick from me, I did not like all the 70s cars and 60s cars looking like they just rolled out of a museum, spick and span spotless. That kind of pissed me off. Like, if you're going to place this in age-appropriate era like this did, you got to have a little more wear and tear on these cars. They should not be looking immaculate. Not everybody was immaculate with their cars during this era.
No.
So, and there was a little too much makeup, it was way too pretty. It needed to be a little bit grittier and darker. So,
yes.
What do you think, Kevin?
I was beholding it to the story for the longest time. So I was kind of like, I don't think these guys like read the first book.
Right.
Or watched the movies. Like, I think they got the cliff notes and had the names and had certain things that needed to happen, but didn't like add all those things up like they had to happen this way.
Right.
I'm like, so I think maybe they just went, you know what? Fuck this book. Like,
yeah, they're like, you know what? We could do this a little bit better.
So I mean, I know they wanted to swerve the audience because this is a very old book. They've had 2 movies made of it already that were very good, and they are held in high esteem still. Like, I don't know anybody that's been like, the Salem's Lot movies suck. Neither one of them are bad movies. This one's not a bad movie. On a level of comparison, yeah, it's bad compared to the first 2. I'd say especially compared to the second one.
Yes.
Because the second one did have all that extra story in there. It did have the realtor's daughter hooking up with the doctor, acting like that they were in love, but really she's just trying to extort him with her trailer park husband. Like it was just a dirty, gritty ass town.
Oh yeah. And
they made a point to say that's how Barlow took over here. The town was already dead. Like, William Sadler should have had a much bigger part in this movie. And he was
absolutely
kind of wasted in it. And I know there's only so much you could have him do at this age.
Right.
But the sheriff had a lot more lines that could have been delivered by Sadler. He had a lot more action that could have been delivered by Sadler.
What, you don't like him getting thrown through a plate glass window at a church and go flying in through the room?
That was cool. That was cool.
Like the funniest scene of the whole movie, and it actually worked for me. I'm like, oh, that's pretty sick.
Well, see, that was another one of the things. Like, all the vampire special effects are like top notch, probably the best you've seen ever anywhere. The scariest probably since the original Salem's Lot. Now, like, that didn't look like a vampire, but it was a scary creature. And
I like the look in that first one, and they tried to give homage to it here too. So
yes, and they just abandoned that completely in the remake back in 2004.
Yep.
And it was very sorely missed. Like, they had Rutger Hauer playing Kurt Barlow, and he was chatty like Barlow is supposed to be, but didn't look scary at all. They just put a black light on him, and you're just kind of like, ooh, he's got big pores. But this one was actually scary. My only thing is they didn't show him enough.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was really cool. The one thing that just really got to me is where the vampire nest was. That was probably the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
What, really? The drive-in didn't work for you, Kevin?
That was so stupid.
Hey, if anybody's worried about spoilers, you might want to just kind of mute this for a bit.
Yeah.
But this is also a very old book, and if you haven't seen any of your other ones, like, what are you doing here anyway?
And you've been here with us for almost an hour and a half. We've already spoiled Agatha for you, so
you are welcome.
Well,
and also according to this, like, one of the key scenes that was trimmed was Ben Mears' chilling encounter with Depression-era hitman Hubert Marston in the Erie Marston house, later purchased by Kurt Barlow for his antique shop. In the book, Ben sneaks into the Marston house and he sees the ghost of Hubert Marston. The director explained to Den of Geek, "I shot that and it used to open the movie, but it seemed to muddy the waters for the audience. The ghost story within the vampire story, to me, it's so important because it's why Ben believes the vampire stuff, but we're not telling that story. So that was the hardest thing to cut because I loved the sequence." Maybe you should have gone for the idea of maybe doing this as like a short mini series instead of a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, because that's what the first 2 movies were. Is they were 2 mini series that were like 2 parts.
Well, and on Max, the original is on there and it clocks in at over 3 hours. It's like,
yeah,
it's right there for everybody to watch if you want to watch that one. So, and you're going to get a little bit of a better story with that too. So,
Yes, and that movie scared my dad so bad when he was a kid back in the 70s. It's like I was forbidden to see it until the 90s, and by the time I saw it in the 90s, I'm like, this movie sucks. Like I read the book in 88, 89, somewhere around there.
Right.
And I liked it. Probably a little too young to be reading it, but I really enjoyed it. I was really disappointed with the movie when I finally saw it. So when I saw the Rob Lowe version, I was kind of like, oh man, this is so much better. And then I see this movie where I'm just kind of like, well, that's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Like all these special effects are top notch. All your actors are top notch. They're not better than any of the previous casting, but they're still this generation's really great actors. And they cut out so much of it. It was just very, very unnecessary.
Right. And what's keynote is the next little paragraph, and then I'm not going to read the rest of it. You can all go check out Bloody Disgusting, or while this is on screen, you can kind of give it a look. But, you know, what's even more intriguing is that the IMDb credits Swamp Thing and Friday the 13th actor Derek Mears as Hubert. Perfect casting choice for the intimidating, eerie character. While the ghost may have conflicted with the vampire story, it would have fleshed out Ben Mears' motivation for returning to his hometown. You cut out Derek fucking Mears? Fuck off. Wow. He was a great Jason and even better as Swamp Thing.
Yeah, man. Like he's a very commanding presence. And they did like that whole bloody pirate sequence is like completely cut out. You have to very quickly like catch the beginning credits and see all the different newspaper clippings to figure out that backstory that they cut out.
Right.
And then again, you have to have watched the movies previously to know what it is, because otherwise, yeah, it's not very comprehensible at all there.
Yeah.
And then there was some race swapping, gender swapping, character swapping. None of it was really all that bad except for the doctor. Like,
yeah, I was like, oh dear God, what are we doing? I mean, I like Alfre Woodard. It's not her.
She was the only reason why I liked the character.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like the doctor's kind of putz in the book. Like he really is. But I mean, I
like how she got smoked at the end, though.
Susan always dies, so it's like, you know, that I couldn't have been too upset about. No. And one thing you have to remember about in Stephen King movies is everybody fucking dies. Like the old books, everybody dies.
Well, the endings always play like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, there was always that twist where it's like you only think things are okay. Right. Or the killer does come back and kill the main character. Ah.
I mean, my favorite book is like Needful Things, so.
Yeah.
Salem's Lot was always a little bit lower tier. That's why I'm not so beholden to the story, but like, I always enjoyed it.
Needful Things was great. Salem's Lot, you know, I always thought it was like this great big thing because of my dad putting so much stock into it being so scary and so creepy that I want it to be a great vampire story. And I think it is. But I think this was a great disservice. I think Warner Brothers should have said, you know what? This is kind of an iconic IP that we have at this point. Like it's popular. It's well known. Like don't do it dirty.
Right. And the fact that you're like, hey, we're going to keep this on Max instead of putting it in theaters. Maybe at that point you're like, hey, we got this as a 3-hour runtime. Maybe we can split this up into 2 parts and simplify the whole thing. Just find a good middle ground so that people can watch these in 2 installments.
See, that's the thing. If you're putting it out on Max, there's no fucking reason at all that they should not have had that director's cut.
Bingo.
Really should not. Like you're not taking a gamble on it in general, so don't just fucking put it out there with the way that the director wanted to make it.
Yes.
I don't know. Directors, we talk about it all the time. They don't have the creative freedom that they used to have anymore. They can't make the picture that they want to see.
No, they don't. But unless you got any other thoughts about this, Kevin, you got a final thought on Salem's Lot? Would you give this thumbs up or thumbs down for everybody, or thumbs in the middle?
So when I was talking to you last night before I finished it,
yep.
I said
I finished it before you then.
Oh, it was the night before last. I said
yeah.
I wouldn't have added this to my collection. I'd just be satisfied with it on Max. Now having watched the third act, I'd probably buy it just to have it be part of my collection. And I did like the third act.
Yeah, for all the weird pacing, horrible pacing and editing, and things that are missing. If you're familiar with the story, it'll drive you crazy. It's like that third act actually is fun to watch, and the climax and the finish, that they do actually stick the landing decent enough that I'd be like, you know what, I wouldn't be opposed to watching this again. I would prefer to watch it based on this article. I would prefer to watch the original cut though. Yeah. I think things would make a lot more sense and it would come across as a better product. So I'd go about thumbs in the middle. You know, some people might really like it. Some are probably not absolutely going to like it. You know, I have issues with it. I did enjoy watching it though.
IMDb gave it a 5.3 out of 10.
I'd say that's pretty fair, actually.
Yeah, I would too. Because it's better than a 4, but it's not as good as the originals, and the originals were in the 6 range. So I'd say it's about what they say it is.
Yeah. For We're in here, I still need to see those 2 newer It movies. I'm a little bit behind on Stephen King adaptations.
The first one is really good.
Yes.
I haven't seen the second one yet, but the first one was really good.
That's what I've been hearing. Is the first one's great, the second one is not.
But too bad.
I still kind of want to see it and kind of give my own opinion on that. I'll probably feel like everybody else does, though.
The first 5 minutes of the first movie, it's everyone's got pretty much the same reaction to it. Like, fuck me.
Right on. Thank you for watching this clip from our Deadwire live streams every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time. Did you like this clip? If so, please make sure you hit that like button, share, and subscribe to this video. Stay tuned to all of our video content. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.